get started. V'ezat Hashem, today in Masechet Megilla, we are holding on Yud Gimel Amud Aleph 13a. We're holding the last narrow line on the page, Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi. The last narrow line on the page. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi. See that, Ali? You got that? Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, Yud Gimel Amud Aleph 13a. Ishcha? Has to be after.
Yeah, but what is the better to see?
Has to be after. There.
Oh, yeah.
We're holding the middle of a sugya. We were talking about Mordechai. We just mentioned Mordechai. And we mentioned that Mordechai was from Shevet Binyamin, Shevet Yehuda, different pshatim to explain the apparent contradiction, whether he was from Binyamin or Yehuda. So the last pshat that we just said was, really he was from... Whoa, hold on.
Oh.
The last pshat we said was that he was from Shevet Binyamin, but he was called Yehudi, al shem shekafar ba'avodah zarah. Someone that denies an avodah zarah is called a Yehudi. That's what we just finished quoting. So because we just said that, the Gemara now tells us how Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi used to introduce Divrei Yamim. Divrei Yamim, in English it's called Chronicles, but it's the end of the Tanakh, and it talks about a lot of names. It refers to the names a lot, the history of the names of the people. And as we're about to see, there's a pasuk that refers to Moshe and his adopted mother. Who was his adopted mother?
Batya.
Right, what's called, either it's called Batya or Bitya, some people call it Bitya, exactly. And her husband, who was the husband of Bitya, who was the daughter of Paro, who was her husband? Does anybody know? His name was Kalev ben Yefune. Kalev, actually, it's brought in other Masechtas that he also married Miriam, who was the sister of Moshe, which is very interesting. He married Moshe's stepmother, and I don't know, it's not really stepmother, adopted mother, you could call it, but he also married Miriam. But anyways, so let's see, the Gemara here discusses...
He was Hebrew?
Who, Kalev?
Yeah.
Of course, Jewish.
So Batya, she married a...
Batya was a Gioret, she converted.
Ah, okay.
Batya converted, yeah. That's what we're going to get into a little bit here. But the reason we're bringing it in really is because we're going to show one pasuk refers to these people by many names. We're talking about names now, and we'll get into why they're called these different names. So the Gemara says, meaning each of them is more of a description of character more than their actual name. That's really what we're going to talk about.
So Paro has only Jewish children.
It's like Donald Trump, you see it? Unbelievable. It's like Donald Trump and Paro. It's the same thing. Rabbi Shimon, ki kamocha ki Paro. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, ki avapatach v'divrei yamim. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, when he would start up the Sefer Divrei Yamim, Amar Achi, he would say the following: Kol divarecha achadhem. All of your words are one. V'anu yodin l'dorshan. And we know how to expound them. Meaning, there's a lot of names for the same person, but it's all referring to the same person, just different parts of their character. What does the pasuk tell us there? It's in Divrei Yamim. It says like this: V'ishto. Now it says his wife, meaning referring to Kalev. Kalev's wife, HaYehudiya, the Jewess, Yalda et Yered. She gave birth to Yered. Avi Gedor, the father of Gedor. Ve'et Chever Avi Shocho. We'll just read through the pasuk and we'll explain it. And Chever, who was the father of Shocho. Ve'et Yekutiel Avi Zanoach. Yekutiel, the father of Zanoach. Ve'ele b'nei Bitya, these are the sons of Bitya, Bat Paro, the daughter of Paro, Asher lakach Mered, that was taken by Mered to be a wife. Now, Bitya is called in the pasuk Yehudiya. Yehudiya means Jewish, or like Yehudit, it's a name today, right? So Amai Karila Yehudiya, why is she called Yehudiya? Al Shum Shekafra ba'avodah zarah. That's why it's quoted here, because she denied the way of her father of avodah zarah, and she decided she's actually going to convert to Judaism. That's the story in the Torah where she finds Moshe in the water. She was going down, as the Gemara Masechet Sotar tells us, litvol migilulei beit avia, is to become a Jew through the tvilah. So actually, that's why she's called Yehudiya, is that she denied the avodah zarah of her father. Like it says, Vatered bat Paro lechotz al hayor. She went down to bathe by the water. It wasn't just telling us she took a bath. Means she went to remove the despicable things of her father's house. She wanted to become Jewish. Now the pasuk says, Yalda. She gave birth. The problem is, we know she did not give birth to Moshe. She raised Moshe, right? We know she's not his biological mother. Yocheved is his biological mother. Batya raised him. So why does it say she gave birth to him? Anyone that raises an orphan in their house, the Torah looks at it as if they gave birth to that child. So when you raise a orphan, you take care of someone who doesn't have parents, it's like you raise that child. Yered ze Moshe. Now Yered in the pasuk refers to Moshe. V'lama nikra shmo Yered. Why is he called Yered? She yarad lahem li Yisrael man biyamav. Because Yarad means he brought down. He brought down the man for the Jewish people in his days. Gidor. Why is he called Gidor? Moshe is also called Gidor. She gadar pirtzotei shel Yisrael, because he fenced in. He blocked in the breaches of the Jewish people. Means the issues they were doing, he fixed them up in his days. Chever, why is he called Chever? Chever means to connect. Lechaber. Shechiberet Yisrael avian shabashamayim, because he connected the Jews to Hashem. Socho, why is he called Socho? So Socho is milashon sukkah. Sukkah is a protective covering. Shenaaseh lehem Yisrael kisukkah, because Moshe became like a protective covering. Actually, we just spoke about this. Every time Hashem wanted to destroy the Jewish people, he was the greatest lawyer to defend them. So he was like the sukkah protecting the Jewish people. Yekutiel, Moshe was called Yekutiel. Ever heard of somebody called Yekutiel?
Yeah.
So that's one of the names of Moshe Rabbeinu, actually. Yeah. Shekivu, it's Yekutiel, it's a beautiful name. Shekivu Yisrael lekel biyamav, it's lashon lekaveh, to hope. He caused the Jews to hope towards Hashem in his days. Zanoach, why was he called Zanoach? Because he took away, he cast off the sins of the Jewish people. Now, Moshe was called father 3 times in the pasuk. Why is he called that? Av b'Torah, Av b'Chochma, Av b'Neviut. Because he's considered the father of Torah, Chochma, wisdom, and prophecy. He's the father of prophecy. Now it says these are the sons of Batya, Sharlakach Mered, who was taken by Mered. Now Mered in the context of the pasuk refers to her husband, Kalev. So the Gemara says, V'chi Mered Shmo, was his name Mered, V'alo Kalev Shmo. Her husband's name was Kalev, Kalev ben Yifuneh. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem said, Yavo Kalev shemarad ba'atzat meraglim. Hashem was saying that the character of these two is similar, so they should get married, of Kalev and Batya. Why? Because Kalev, he rebelled, Marad, he rebelled against the Eitzah, the advice of the Meraglim. We know 12 spies went to Eretz Yisrael in Parashat Shlach. 2 of them were Yoshua and Kalev. Those 2 came back and they tried to paint a picture of Israel in a positive way. But the other 10 had negative intention. So Kalev rebelled against Atzat Meraglim, the advice of the Meraglim. So it's appropriate he should marry the daughter of Paro, who rebelled against the Avodah Zarah of her father. Okay, now we're going to get back to the Purim story. That was just a side point. Pasuk tells us regarding Mordechai, Asher Hagla Yerushalayim. He was exiled from Yerushalayim. Now the word Hagla implies that he went into Galut by himself. It says Ima Gola, Asher Haglata, means it says with the exile who were exiled. So it means the Pasuk implies everybody else was forcibly exiled, and he went into exile by himself. So Rava teaches us Shegala Me'atzmo. Actually, it's true. He went into exile by himself. Very interesting. What did I write here? Tiferet Shlomo says that he went into exile by himself. Kedei la'achin makom beparas. Like Yaakov, that before the Galut he went down first to set up the place so that when the Galut, the harsh Galut started, it would be arranged already. It's interesting. I don't know if it's Tiferet Shlomo, whatever that is. But either way, Mordechai went into Galut by himself. He went on his own accord. Now it tells us what was the relationship between Mordechai and Esther. So we know he was actually her uncle, but he married her, or a cousin, but he married her. It says, Vayomenet Hadassah, he raised Hadassah. So the Gemara notes this contradiction. Karila Hadassah, the Pasuk calls her Hadassah, the Karila Esther, and she's also called Esther. Sometimes people today are called Hadassah Esther because it's the same person. So there's going to be many pshatim now. Which one is her real name and which one is a description of her? That's the way we're going to go through it now. So Tanya Rabbi Meir, Omer Meir is the first pshat. He says Esther Shma. Really, her name was Esther. Why was she called Hadassah? Al Shem HaTzadikim Shenikra'u Hadassim. Because Tzadikim are called Hadassim. Hadassim is one of the species we take on Sukkot. So the tzaddikim are called Hadassim. And she was a tzaddiket. V'cheno omer, like it says in Zechariah, it says, V'hu omed bein hadasim. It says that the Shekhinah was standing between the Hadassim. What does it mean between the Hadassim? They're between Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, who were righteous. Rabbi Yehuda omer Hadassa Shma. No, Rabbi Yehuda says the opposite. Her name was actually Hadassa. V'lama nekret Shma Esther. So why was she called Esther? Hashem shahaita mistateret dvareh. Because she hid her words. Shene'emar, like the pasuk tells us, Esther means to hide. Like it says, Ein Esther mageret etama v'gomer. Mordechai had instructed her that when she's taken to be the wife of Achashverosh, she shouldn't reveal her background. He knew there was some sort of a divine plan here, some sort of a plan that Hashem had. Ultimately, when the time would come and she would say, I'm a Jew and my nation's being persecuted, then she would reveal. But in the beginning, Mistateret Tivareh, she hid her words. Rabbi Nechemia says a third pshat. Hadassa Shma, she was called Hadassa. V'lama nekret Esther. Why was she called Esther? Shayu umota olam korinota al shum estaher. Estaher refers to the beauty of the moon, the shine of the moon. So the nations of the world referred to her by the beauty of the moon because she was so beautiful. Ben Azai Omer, Ben Azai says a fourth pshat. Esther, lo aruka velo ketzara. She wasn't too tall, she wasn't too short. Haita, ela benonit ke hadasa. Hadas is a plant that's not too tall, not too short. It's an average height. So she was also not too tall, not too short, but she was an average height. That's why she was called Esther, Hadassa. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha Omer, a fifth pshat. Esther yirak roket haita. Now this pshat seems to paint her as not being very attractive, actually. She was green. Yirak roket is not a attractive thing. It's not a compliment. Yirak roket haita. She was green like a hadas. V'chut shel chesed mashoch aleh. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu placed a special grace over her that when people saw her, they found her to be attractive. They found her to be appealing. Even though naturally she wasn't. She was greenish. She had like a sickly complexion. Nonetheless, Hashem made her particularly attractive to people. Pasuk tells us, Ke'en la'ava'em. Mordechai raised her because she did not have a father and a mother. Uvemot avia v'ima. And then it says, and when her father and mother died. So why do I need to know that? If you said she didn't have a father and mother, so I know that her mother and father died. So why is it double emphasized? It's emphasizing that she never had a mother and father. Meaning some people are orphans that once had parents. They knew about their parents. But in this case of Esther, she never knew her parents. Why? Because Ivrita, when her mother was pregnant, Meitavia, her father died. Yaladita, when her mother gave birth, Meitayima, her mother died. Meaning to say is, it wasn't just that she was an orphan, but she actually never knew her parents. That's what happened over here. And Mordechai took her in. It says, when her parents died, Mordechai took her as a daughter. Now, bat literally means he raised her as a daughter. But Tana the Braita says, the word bat, if you add in the yud, it means lebayit, meaning he eventually married her, actually. He married her. I believe it was his cousin or his niece. Omer, yeah. What? Uncle niece. V'cheno Omer, like it says in Shmuel, and this is in the context of where the Navi gives Musar to David HaMelech. You know the story with Uriah Achiti, where David HaMelech took Batsheva, who was the wife of Uriah Achiti, and the Navi comes and gives Musar to David, and he says to David, why did you take the wife of that fellow? I'm not going to get into the whole story now, but we should know, the Gemara in Ketuvot tells us, anybody that says David sinned is a mistake. You're wrong. Meaning, however the pshat in the story is, David is not just a stam sinner like, someone in this generation would do. So whatever it means, he wasn't a sinner, but the Navi gives him musar, and the way he gives musar is, he says, he gave a mashal. He said, Ularash ein kol, the poor man had nothing, ki im kivsa achat, just one sheep, Tana, a small one, Asher Kana, that he had bought, and it lived and was raised with him, banav yachtav, and with his sons together, mipitot tochala mikosot tishteh, from his bread it ate, and from his cup it drank, ubechekot tishkav, and it slept in his embrace, batihilo kebat, and it was like a daughter. So the point that the Gemara is emphasizing is, mishum de bechekot tishkav, havat le lebat, meaning the natural thing is you sleep in an embrace, it's referring to a married couple. So why is it saying it was like a daughter? El lebayit, obviously in the context there what it meant was, the Navi was telling David, how could you take the one that was married to Uriah Chiti as a wife? Why are you doing that? Hachinami lebayit, so bat really means bayit in the context of these two places. Now the Psukim tell us Esther was taken to the palace, and it says that Sheva Na'arot v'gomer. She was given 7 maidens, 7 maidservants, people to help her. So Amar Rava says, Shaita moneh bahen yemei Shabbat. She used these maidens in order to count the days of Shabbat. Meaning, the simple pshat is, in order for her to remember when Shabbat was, she would use these maidens. And the Mefarshim speak out over here is, did she not have a basic calendar? Meaning, what do you need? She needed 7 different helpers every day so that she could know when Shabbat was. You know when Shabbat is, it's not a big deal. So they say a different pshat, they say a little bit different, which is that it was important, the maid who helped her on Shabbat was not the same one who helped her throughout the week. Why was it important? Because if the one on Shabbat saw her not doing melacha, so they would say, okay, maybe she just never does melacha. But if she saw her during the week not doing melacha, and then she also saw her on Shabbat, if they saw her during the week doing melacha, and then on Shabbat not doing melacha, so they'll start to pick up, maybe this is a Jew. So therefore she made sure, it worked out that she would have different maidservants for Shabbat than the rest of the week, so people wouldn't start to pick up on her minhagim, on her different practices, perhaps realizing she was a Jew. That's what they say, the pshat is Hashem orchestrated it that way. Now it says, Vayishaneh vet nerota. It says, they changed them and her maidservants. So what is this shinoi? Shinoi means there was some sort of a distinction. What does that mean? V'gomer. Rav says, she'echila ma'achal Yehudi. What was unique about Esther is that she was given Jewish food, meaning she was given kosher food. Shmuel says, she'echila kidli de chaziri. And there's 2 pshatim here. Rashi learns kidli de chaziri refers to fatty hogs, like she actually ate pig, which is not kosher. I believe that's how Rashi learns. 1 second. Yeah. And that's the change, meaning usually she would eat kosher food. So the change emphasizes that here she was compelled because of ones. She had no option. She had to eat kosher food. Others learn, I think it's a different pshat, but Tosafot learns v'chas v'shalom hi lo hayta ochelet. Means she wouldn't eat it. I mean, almost the opposite is the chas v'shalom. Of course, she didn't eat it. It's different pshat. Rabbi Yochanan Amar zeronim. Rabbi Yochanan says she was a vegetarian and she only ate beans and seeds. So she made sure to keep kosher in the palace by only eating vegetables, beans and seeds. V'cheino Omer, we find in Daniel also, it says, Vayeh meltzar noseh pat begas. It says the steward, he took away food, begas, which was the place, the royal food that was brought to the officers. V'noten lahem zeronim, and he gave them zeronim. This refers to Daniel. I believe this was referring to Hanan, Mishael, Azariah also, if I remember correctly. But the point is, the Jewish officers in the palace of, I believe it was the palace of Bavel, of Nebuchadnezzar, they were given seeds and they were able to stay healthy. Hashem took care of them because they were makbid on eating kosher. Now the Pasuk tells us in Megillat Esther, basically this is what ended up happening. What happened over here is they gather all the women together, and Achashverosh was meant to do some sort of a trial to determine who would be the next queen. Now his trial wasn't like a beauty pageant today. What he would do is every night he would sleep with a different woman. And then at the end of it, he would decide which one he wanted as a queen. We spoke about how this was a silly method, it was foolish, people would avoid it, because then those women were stuck in the harem for the rest of their lives. The Beit HaNashim, they were stuck there, they couldn't leave. So the Gemara tells us that there was a preparation before seeing the king. That's what happened. Shisha chodashim b'shemen hamor. For 6 months they were treated with shemen hamor, which is some sort of a myrrh oil. My shemen hamor, what is this? Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar satechet. It refers to balsam oil. It's a type of oil that treats their skin, makes them more pleasant. Rav Huna Amar shemen zayit shelo hevi shlish. Rav Huna says it was an olive oil that hadn't been grown a third yet. Apparently had great qualities for beautification. Tanya, the Braita says, Rav Yehuda Omer, an pikinon, this refers to an pikinon, which Rashi adds in over here, which you're not allowed to use for the menachot in the Beit HaMikdash, which is shemen zayit shelo hevi shlish. It's the same thing. It's this olive oil that had not grown a third of its production. V'lama sachinoto, why did they use this on their skin? Shemeshir et aseyar, it removed hair, u'ma'adin et habasar, and it caused the skin to glow. So it was a beautifying agent. Now the Pasuk tells us be'erev iba, that the derech was, the normal thing was, in the evening the women would come to Achashverosh, Uvaboker hishava, and in the morning she would go back to the Beit Hanashim, to the place that the woman would stay. To me, this sounds like such a wild approach. You wouldn't even know. You're going through 1,000 women. You don't even remember one from the other from the next. I don't even understand what the Havamina here was. But anyways, I think this had to do a lot with the low moral fiber of the society. That's what we're talking about. So in the evening she would come, and in the morning she would go back to, meaning to the king, and in the morning she'd go back to the Beit Hanashim. Rabbi Yochanan says, Mignuto sheloto rasha lamadnu shvacho. It's very interesting. From the disgrace, from the inappropriate behavior of that wicked person, we actually find something that's worth praise. What is it? Shelo haya mishamesh mitato bayom. We know Chazal tell us it's appropriate to have relations at night. So even though he had relations with 1,000 women, or however many women it was, which is disdainful, it's disgraceful, but at the same time we see that he only had relations during the night, so there is something that we can applaud him for. Atihi Esther noseit chen, and it says Esther went and she found favor, meaning he liked her. So Amar Belazar Melamed, it teaches us shalakol echad be'echad nitmito lo ki umato. It says she found favor b'chol ro'eh, in the eyes of anyone who saw her. So it teaches us that Hashem performed the miracle, and every nationality she would appear to that person like she was of their nationality. So if a French man saw her, she looked French. If a Spanish person saw her, she looked Spanish. Meaning Hashem created a phenomena here so that she'd find favor in everyone's eyes. Atilakach Esther la melech, and she was taken to the king. So the night came, she went to the king, and Melech Achashverosh el Beit Malchuto, to his royal palace, Bachodesh Asiri, in the 10th month, Hu Chodesh Tevet, which is the month of Tevet. Actually, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, we learned, quotes this pasuk as one of the earliest indicators of the fact that the months of the year, the Jewish year, are as we know them, meaning Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, that only began in Galut, in the Galut Bavel. After, they didn't use those dates before Galut Bavel, they used Chodesh Rishon, Chodesh Sheni, Chodesh Shlishi. That's what the Torah actually uses. This is one of the first times we find in the Torah, we have a little bit earlier too, that it uses these dates. But it says she was taken in the 10th month, which is Tevet. Tevet is the winter. Yerach, Hashem organized it this way. It was called Shenehene Guf Min Aguf, because it's a month that the bodies benefit from close contact. Meaning Hashem wanted that Achashverosh would have a particularly enjoyable experience with her, because it's cold outside, and bodies being close together provide warmth to each other. It says he loved her more than all the other women. And she found favor in his eyes more than all the virgins. So first it calls her more than all the women, which is not the betulot. And it says she also found favor more than the betulot. So what's the double emphasis? Amarav, bikesh letom tam betula ta'am. If he wanted her to be like a betula, so it was like an experience with a betula. Ta'am be'ula, ta'am. And if he wanted it to be like a be'ula, like a woman who already had experience, it was like that. It means Hashem made it that he would desire her however it was. Now what happened? The king wanted to figure out exactly what was her background, so he made a big party, hoping that if he does good things in her honor, she'll reveal her background, her story. He made a big party. He made a big party. She still wouldn't reveal her nationality. He removed taxes. He figured, I'll remove taxes in her honor, and that will give her kavod, and then she'll reveal. Velo Galilei, she still didn't reveal. Means she kept the word of Mordechai, like he had told her not to reveal her background. Shadar Pardishni Velo Galilei. He sent gifts to the different officers in her merit, and she still didn't reveal it. So the Gemara tells us what happened. The Pasuk tells us, there was a second gathering of the girls. Why did they do a second gathering? So Azil Shakal Eitzami Mordechai. Chashverosh went and took advice from Mordechai. Now he didn't realize Mordechai and Esther had a relationship. So he goes to Mordechai, he says, look, I'm trying to figure out what her background is, and she's not revealing it despite everything that I'm doing. That's what he said. So what should I do? How do I get her to reveal? So Amar, Mordechai said, Ein isha mitkana ela b'yerech haverta. A woman only becomes jealous by the thigh of her friend. Meaning, if you start showing that she's not the only woman, and maybe you'll go after other women, so then maybe she'll reveal her information. Now Mordechai had an agenda here, because he thought maybe if Achashverosh does another gathering of women, he'll let Esther go and they'll be able to sneak her out somehow. But afilo achilo galile, even so they did another gathering of women, she still didn't reveal. Dechtiv, like it says, Ein Esther mageret moladeta begomer, she wouldn't reveal the information, etc. yeah, I think we're going to stop here because this is a new sugya. So Hashem will stop at the bottom of Gimel with Aleph. We'll pick up tomorrow with the Gimel with Bet. Chevra, wonderful day.